Damn, I'm running late. G'day, guys. Good to see you all. Thanks, Blinky. A whole lot of... Just increase stream share doesn't show it. Did you put earlier questions? Yeah, bloody hell. Somebody else. All from AG earlier. Okay. So you copied them. Clever boy. Well, good to see you guys. Hope you enjoyed the interludes in between and the rat studies. Yes, nothing like an Alzheimer demented rat making claims of all sorts. Yes, those damn rats. There are some human versions as well. They love these studies. God, do they love them. Throw a bit of poofer in there and you really spice up your day. Anyway, let's get on with the so-called serious stuff. I've got to do the serious stuff. Fuck. Let me just check one thing. Let's see if Bart has actually responded. Let's see if the... where am I? Let's see if Kiwi Magic or Kiwi Master has responded. No. Okay, so he's not. Maybe we'll get an appearance later on. If he does, he'll just pop in and just say hello and I'll send him a link. Anyway, let's move on. Harry, thoughts? I'd like to get some questions early. Okay, that's AG. Okay, learned that during stress response injury, there's a marked increase in glucose demand and a decreased use of ketones. What are your thoughts? Okay. Usually when you increase exercise, it's a couple of things. Usually glucose will go up slightly, but just slightly. There is another thing that I can think of that does go up dramatically. And ketones will come down slightly, but they can actually increase if you're doing long distance stuff like that. So that's the normal sort of stuff, just to cover that, get out of that other way. Now with injury, the big one is a thing called EPO. You remember all those Tour de France guys that, like the Armstrong and a few of the others that were basically using EPO to get far more red blood cells, so they had more endurance, more oxygen. Well, what do you think red blood cells need to function? Yes, they need glucose. That's exactly it. That's why glucose goes up. So when you get an injury, I remember hearing in a study, this is, please don't quote me, but I remember ages ago, there was a study that actually said that if you get a severe brain injury, EPO, and this is a hormone, okay, let's just make this quite clear. This hormone, which is part of the regulatory, part of the the turnover of your red blood cells, can actually express itself 1,000-fold. So it can dramatically jump up to 1,000-fold if you've got a brain injury, like you've actually had an accident in a car, something like that. So I don't know about general injuries. I just know about the brain injuries, but about general injuries, I suspect any injury will actually increase the expression of EPO. That means you need to get oxygen and you need to get blood to that area of the injury to heal it. And obviously, the more red blood cells you get there, obviously you will need more glucose because they use glucose. They don't use fatty acids or ketones. They don't have mitochondria. So basically, red blood cells need more oxygen. One, to carry more oxygen, but also to basically they need more glucose. So the body responds, whether you provide it or you don't, through gluconeogenesis, it will actually generate more. So that's basically it, EPO. So that was an easy one. for injuries. That's a given. If basically your blood glucose doesn't go up with an injury, you got a problem. Are you alive? Anyway, let's move on. The other one. What about your thoughts on people getting that's sebaceous sort of dermatitis? That's due with sebaceous type. After incorporating dairy, do you think it's caused by leaky gut? More than likely. There's a lot of things. Diseases can cause it. Like, I know some like HIV can actually cause it. There's a couple of other diseases. There's stress can cause it. Change in the, are you feeling stressed, Blinky? So a lot of things like that can actually, leaky gut is definitely an issue. SIBO is another one, well recognized at all dermatological. Actually, I do have, where is it? Where have I got that bloody, that was one that I actually wanted to do maybe this month. I didn't know whether I was going to do it this month or do it next month. I couldn't bloody make up my mind. Whether we were going to have an impromptu video clips. Where is it? Where'd I put it? Skin and gut microbiome. That's what I was going to call it. Well, it's a preliminary. Let me just bring that up. I'm not going to read the whole study. And I don't want other people knowing until I basically do the damn thing myself. I remember seeing it somewhere here. Where is it? Come on. Oh, fuck. Remember, I go through and read these really fast. And that's right. Parkinson's as well. That's right. So is a common inflammation rash that's most often occurs in areas, skin, high sensitive, scalp, face, outbreak corresponding to triggers such as weather changes, depression, emotional. Do you feel depressed, Blinky? Emotional stress. Am I stressing you, Blinky? Incidence of STs. I've got to make it comical, you know me. You did ask the question after all, even though it was for somebody else. A troll must troll another troll. What else have they got? Signs: infancy, teenagers, adults, 50 years of suggesting hormonal changes, some pathogens also, Parkinson's, and that's right, the gut microbiome, also the microbiome of the skin as well. There's have you been in the hospital recently, and have you been exposed to streptococcus? So if you basically, let's say, because recently I have noticed around that there have been more like skin issues. A lot of us are actually being slapping and slopping a whole lot of shit on our skin because of the corona thing. And if we had a poor, initially we had a poor skin biome, our skin can basically be affected. That means if we go to hospital for any bloody reason or whatever, we can end up with, like one of these streptococcus sort of, and potentially, you could actually grow and really cause a lot of skin problems like this. These sort of lesions and stuff like that. So there's a couple of, I don't want to cover all of them. I will go in them in my future thing. But there's a lot in the literature as well. There's a couple of studies on this one as well. But I won't look into it. With the gut microbiome, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that can also, there's a lot of pathogenics there. It can be inflammatory, especially in a low B vitamin sort of environment. So that's another sort of angle to it. And with all that mulae, you're susceptible to things which are a bit more reactive. Things that have got actually sugars, like dairy. Even eggs got a bit, but there are other things in eggs, some of the proteins that can actually react to some of these pathogenic bacteria. So, don't know, So there's a lot of possibilities, as you can understand. There's a possibilities of, skin issues related to the bacterial colonies of your skin, with the bacterial colonies of your gut. Remember, your gut is your internal skin, so there's a lot of interactions there as well. So hard to say, but but because you actually said dairy and eggs, I would say a potential pathogenic bacteria, maybe due to SIBO, or just a loss of some diversity for whatever reason, antibiotics. Are you downing Roundup glyphosate? Are those flies that you're eating, Blinky, full of glyphosate? Anyway, let's move on. So there will be a future, hopefully this month, that I will go onto it has to do with the probiotics and the bacterial strains on your skin and everywhere else. So I'm gonna try and cover all that bacterial, as Neff says, bacterial flora. So yeah, that would take far too long to cover everything. So yep, let's move on. Okay, can't get enough of MK4 from daily. No, you mean daily diet. If you don't consume dairy, that's true. Potentially, you can get it from organ meats. So animal fats have it. Organ meats have it. So there is an option there to get it. Now, if you don't like organ meats, you can actually supplement organ meats. If you don't like supplementing organ meats, your next option is getting actually an actual supplement. Or what else? Emu oil. Lather yourself with emu oil. Eggs are another thing, but obviously you've got the SIBO thing going, so eggs are out. Yeah, so yeah, your options are organ meats pretty much is all I can think of, or supplement, which is the best possibilities there. Liver being one of the highest, and heart. So you may have a preference for heart, which may be easier to consume. Kidneys have also got some, but some people like them, some people don't. It's one of those things. Yes. Anyway, we think we've covered that. Bloody hell, hit me with a lot of questions right at the beginning. Not even a chance to basically, a bit of comedy, a bit of banter, and then get into the serious stuff. Well, we can do that now. I got my milk, Blinky. Nothing like raw, warm milk. Yes, just warmed it up a bit for a couple of minutes. Yes, another one. Nefri boomer. Oh God. Oh, living dangerously, Blinky, living dangerously. They are fighting words. G'day, Alex. Good to see you. Yes. The demented master is here with his troll Blinky. Blinky poo. Yeah, I know. That awful necro kitty. She's got a new one for him. Alex, you may have not seen it. You got to see it. Where is it? Let's bring it up. Let's bring it up. Need to find where I've got it. Hold on. Wrong folder. Let's find it. Yes, I know, Blinky. I'm an asshole. He's getting a lot of protein from those flies. Yes, that evil kitty. That evil kitty. We know. Where's yours? Because you had one as well. What was the? Because I always save these off for a good laugh now and then. Where's this one? Oh, here it is. There you go. Oh, come on. He had the shits with her, basically. Oh, God. Isn't he awful? He's a absolute beast. He can't take a can't take a simple, I mean, that's cute. I mean, you're cute there, Blinky. Enough entertainment for one day. God. Left India already. You shouldn't have called him a boomer. Why you necro? You'll have to call a kitty troll. That's a new one for you, kitty troll. Oh, God. You've been done by a pussy. If anything, I get misplaced. Again. Yes, I was alive just a moment ago. I felt live. Hour of sleep. Jack Crew's currently crying. Huh? About an hour sleep. Jack Crew's currently crying. Huh? Not really. Yes. Is he getting an hour's sleep only or something, or he's got some issue? I'm confused. G'day, Melinda. Good to see you. And g'day, Angela. 7 a.m. here in the British Isles. Yes, early for you. You must be just getting out of bed. G'day, mate. Yes, nothing like praising the meat god. Yes, God bless you. If French people are eating considerable amounts of saturated fat with carbs, might the French paradox be challenging to the Randle cycle theories? No, because they don't. That is a myth. French do not eat large amounts of saturated fat with carbs. They have, some baguettes now and then, a few carbohydrates. They actually have like one day of the week, which is a high protein diet day on Thursday. It usually is. I think it's Thursday from memory. So no, if traditionally rural, we're not talking about urban. A lot of the urban people have changed their diet quite a bit. Okay. They are definitely, a lot of them are much fatter and engaging the Randle cycle. But in the rural areas, they're still eating more traditional and they're more physically active. So they're burning off those little carbs that they get and it's less of a problem. So new. The Randle cycle exists. It's not a theory. as many people try to placate it, because when you actually look at literature of mixed diets and a lot of the actual markers of inflammation, the actual markers when you're, have control over what people are getting in their physical activity, it's definitely not a damn issue at all. The theories, the research confirms a lot of that. But there are a whole lot of variables that are at play. As I've said before, the Randle cycle is a generalized way of actually talking about mixed macros and this sort of at the cell level, getting this sort of effect of limiting, blocking the either utilization of sugar or fat, which can happen. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of other sub areas that we never really talk about, and it has to do with deuterium. So the amount of deuterium and the amount of damage to or the amount of deuterium that needs to be, so it's more complex. When you actually go through glycolysis or lipolysis and you feed into the actual TCA cycle, citric cycle, you're actually also there generating metabolic water. Well, if you've got too many of those hydrogen ions that are deuterium that need to be deuterionated, replaced, well, that's going to slow down some of these mechanisms. So there are a whole lot of other mechanisms that can actually be at play if you've got too many damaged mitochondria, the electron chains, too many of those damaged. You'll be less efficient in terms of, oxidative phosphorylation. So there's a whole lot of raft of factors that are at play. It's not basically I can get two twins and one can actually have a very high deuterium diet and the other one a low deuterium diet. And I can tell you I can feed them exactly the same stuff and you'll get a very different response because one will be able to process its stuff very differently at a different rate. So that's as well. There's a lot of elements. It's not only, let's work out your BMI, let's work out what is your caloric requirement. There's a whole lot of other mechanisms and enzymatic processes that basically can play to affect these things. So, when you look at it that way, it's a far more complicated picture, but we use a more simplified way of actually explaining it. When you're in excess calories on a mixed diet and you're actually impeding these pathways, you're blocking these pathways, then you tend to actually accumulate more fat and sugar in the bloodstream, and that will increase, a number of things, inflammation, and if you do it chronically, pathology as well, and also limit the amount, starve those cells, cause more storage of basically fats and sugars sugars being converted to fat and exported out and stored. So all those sort of things. So it's a more complicated picture. No, it doesn't cause that at all. You have to look at also the activity levels of these people. Rural French people are more active. There's also the types of fats that they're eating. When you eat higher amounts of saturated fats, which is what the French are eating, what you also do is you induce a thing called a reverse electron transport. When you have a reverse electron transport, you will upregulate the amount of new mitochondria. You will generate, like exercise, like fasting, all these things increase the amount of mitochondrial density. So if you've got higher mitochondrial density, you will basically end up being able to, process this additional energy much faster, so you won't end up with this sort of excess sort of state or engaging the Randle cycle, as you call it. So there's a lot of factors in it. It's the reason why younger people can get away with a lot of shit, because they've got higher mitochondrial density. And it's usually kids from an early age that may have some pathology which they inherited because from their birth, they tend to really fatten up and get very sick very fast in very early age, where everybody else that still is born with good levels of mitochondria, but then goes on over decade eating shit and damaging their mitochondria with too much deuterium. And then they basically find themselves in middle age and they've got less energy capacity production, but also less tolerance to mixed diets as well. So there's a lot. It's, as you can see, it's complex. Okay. We call it in simple terms, but there's a lot of other factors in the sort of your mitochondrial, quality, or the efficiency of your cells to process energy. So there's a lot. The transcription factors, that means the enzymatic pathways, are they supported with enough micronutrients? That's another factor. So you can see it's a much more complex. We call it, we explain it in this sort of reductionist, simplified way, but it's way more complex. That's why we see these variations, if that makes sense. I hope that you understood that. Yeah, that's a difficult one about recovering from mitochondrial damage. That takes a long time and a lot of biohacking, I can tell you, in that regard. Not an easy thing. Yes. Very useful for some things. Somebody's on the late shift. Yes, he's good. He's good value. Nah, I tease him, but no, he's good value. How easy hand is to overturn epigenetics with correct dietary environmental choices? Actually, it can be quite fast. If you change an environment and you change your diet dramatically, you can change. I mean, within days, you can change a lot of gene expression. Within days, you can change your gut microbiome. I'm not kidding. Certain things, let's say if you've got, a liver problem, that may take a bit of time. If you've got a kidney problem, that may take a bit of time. If you've basically got a gallstone, gallbladder, something like that, that can take a bit of time. But things like environmental can be really rapidly, like if you're exposed in an environment where there's pathogens or mold or whatever, you get out of that environment within a short amount of time, less than a month, you could probably recover quite well, most people, if they've got good detoxification pathways. If they are genetically less capable of detoxifying as fast as some people, then it may take a bit longer, but it's still going to happen. Diet can dramatically change things as well. Your gut microbiome can change dramatically. You could be producing substances that can actually be more helpful for your body. So, yes. Anyway, 4th day of fasting here. God, give me strength. Yes, one for punishment. Washing hands for corona causes a lot of problems. I see a lot of them here. Yeah, that's, I think, there's another issue that I've talked about a bit, but I haven't really gone into detail, is that when you're not touching other people and transferring bacteria, because normally we just interact with people, we're getting a lot of bacteria back and forward. If you're not doing that, there's a potential risk that if you're slapping on all this shit for a long time, you're reducing the diversity of your skin microbiome. Then the coronavirus goes away. In about a year's time, you start interacting, kissing with your relatives or friends or whatever, or your girlfriend, which or who knows. And basically then you're more susceptible to bacteria that other person had, shaking their hand, that you didn't have, and your gut microbiome is less flexible to deal with. So potentially you could be causing yourself problems. So I can see other problems emerging as we go along. Yeah. Exactly. The rat has landed. He descended. Ooh. Yes. We called you the flying rat. Rat's milk, yummy. Master rat to you. Nice. Anyway, move on. I read an article recently saying that we need between 10 to 45 milligrams of K2 daily. Makes sense. RDAs, I suspect you mean of K, quite. Look, it varies. It varies in that regard. A couple of milligrams, that's, the 10 to 45 micrograms is way, way low. That's crap as far as I'm concerned. Because if you basically look at some things like Gouda, you look at certain meats and certain stuff, you can actually get into the hundreds of micrograms, for 100 grams, So, nah, I think we can handle far more, and I can tell you the body will suck it up very quickly. I will be doing shortly a thing on K2, which you'll be finding very interesting. It's in a rat sort of thing, but there are certain assumptions about LDL, and there are certain assumptions about ApoE and a couple of other. There are certain things out there, and there's certain things that certain people thought, and apparently may not be the case. So I will hold off from that, and I'll get to it in another day. But yes, the more K2 is fine, really good for you. And the more pathology you've got, the more the better. Anyway, how much K per day would God, I'd have to look at the actual study. Do I have it close by here? Had it somewhere in some folder. Let me just find it. Wrong folder. Is it this one? Oh God, how many studies have I got in there? Not that one, not that one. It's about women. Bone, nah. It's a Rotterdam study. God almighty, where have I got it? Is it under this folder? No, that's not it. It's that damn study. Oh, it's in human breast milk. Fuck's sake. Nope. wrong. Just give me a sec, guys. I know it's somewhere here. Nope. Where the hell is it? Nope. Just remember that study I hadn't seen for a while on the electron transport chain and the K2 as well, because it's involved in that as well as an anti-cancer effect, but that's for another day. Where the bloody hell is that? Oop. I should name these. Fuck me. Oh, there you go. I think this is the one. I've got too many bloody studies. Oh, that's the other fucking metaclonones. That's not it. Damn, I don't know where I've actually got that. Ah, here it is. Fuck me. Trying to find these things. Okay. I'll put a link for it for you, Angela, when I've finished. And probably need to increase that a bit. How's that looking? 200. That'll do. And okay, so we can actually see these are, we're talking about given 100 per 100 milliliters. So basically we're looking at, 100 grams equivalent. And that's the sort of dosages you'll get. And, things like brie, about 125. So that's nanograms per gram. So I know it fucking gives me the shits, these fucking terminology. arseholes. Okay, nanograms to grams or milli. We don't want that. We don't want that. Grams to micrograms. That's it. So when we're looking at, let's say Brie here, which has got MK, it's got Brie's only got MK4, so 125. Okay, one. Can't even type correctly. So that's your micrograms in that sort of dosage for that one per gram. So they make it complicated. So 100 grams, which is 3.5 ounces, times 125, 12,500. Will give you 12.5 micrograms. Okay. So as you can see, you would need quite a bit in that regard. So let's move on. Now, there are a couple of others that have got higher. Now, when we're looking at liver, as you can see, liver is quite low. Actually, mince meat is much higher. And eel is very high. So as you can see, you don't get massive amounts from food in that regard. You do get from some fermented sources. So the reason I haven't put this up is because I did want to do a proper one where actually I calculated everything correctly in that regard. Humans that are on a species appropriate diet probably don't need as much, Angela. You don't need as much. But if you're trying to clear out soft tissue from arterial calcification like I was and all that, then higher amounts is a good thing. So, yes. The body also generates some K as well from K1. And that's not only from basically generated from, the fermentation from some fiber type things, but also the bacteria themselves can produce it, even when they actually are using other things like meat and whatever. So we've never really calculated properly. And I suspect we probably don't know exactly how much the body really needs, how much the body really can handle, where the upper limit is. We basically don't know shit, basically, in that regard. But if you're trying to decalcify, I usually get people on higher amounts. And I've actually found studies that actually show that a lot of things actually improve with certain people with certain ailments when they get higher doses for a certain amount of time. You don't do it for a long time, but a certain period of time. Some conditions may require longer, some years, some months, some, a couple of weeks. It depends on the ailment and what you're trying to correct or whatever. A lot of them are on rat studies, so you can only extrapolate by a certain amount per kilogram of body weight. Since it is a mammal, in this regard, MK4 in all mammals acts very similar. So it doesn't act differently in that regard. So, it's like retinol or vitamin D or vitamin E, certain vitamins, they act very similar in all animals. So we don't really have to worry about it's in the different species, because we've already done plenty of studies in different species with menaquinones and with different vitamins and all that, and we've seen similar results. So that quite clearly confirms that in all animals, similar things happen, so to speak. So I'm less worried about research in animals based on vitamins and minerals in many regards. There's probably only where the difference can lie is in the requirements between animals. That's true. We tend to be one of the animals where, because of also our bigger brains, probably require far more than the rats. So we tend to do better in that regard. Anyway, let's move on. Blinky's laughing about something. Tasmanian flies. Oh, I know where that's coming from the previous incident with me and the fly. Yes. So that's a low. Yeah, that's a cheap shot. T2, cheap shot. Plenty. Look forward to a video next month in January. There will be on the menaquinones. So you'll have to wait until then, and I will get into it, because that is part of that whole list of things that I was looking through. So yes, I don't want to give anything away yet until I do that, and then you can ask me whatever question comes out of that. Anyway, there's also going to be some stuff on neurological and related stuff, also with our gut microbiome this month, and regarding to a number of other things. So stay tuned. There'll be plenty on that front, both from the gut microbiome and other things like vitamins and minerals. Blinky. That's asking for trouble. She'll be on the warpath. Yes. Kitty will literally drive over you, squash you. Very difficult. Let's put it that way. Very bloody difficult. You really have to go for, I will do something in the future. You really have to sort of lower the deuterium levels. There's a whole protocol. There's certain nutraceuticals and all that. I will be doing a video in future how to repair mitochondria. Fasting helps. Exercise helps. So, and they're for free. They don't cost anything. G'day, mate. Good to see you here. Oh, late again. That's why you're not keeping an eye on these two. That's why they're out of control. Oh, God, sucking up. Yeah, look, I mean, yeah, sucking up. God almighty, you two. Someone had mentioned only having 1 hour sleep earlier, which reminded me of something. Oh, okay. I claimed 8 hours sleep on a night. Okay. One Japanese study or another on twins suggesting less. There are differences in genetics. That's true. I don't require, my genetics actually tell me that I don't require as much sleep, and also that I'm one of those people that are like a night owl. So it all makes sense. Not that I don't enjoy sleeping, but I can sometimes get away with 6.5 hours and I'm up. If I'm really tired, I usually go through 7.5 or 8 hours. But if I'm not, and haven't been too physical for the day, 6.5 usually. Found between 7 and 8 optimal, but in another done on tribal people found 6 hours was a standard for them. Yeah, look, genetics. There's about half the population that have actually got to some degree these sort of night owl genes, and they think that the reason why they're more dominant amongst tribal people is because you need people to stay up awake at night to make sure no predators come into the camp. So they are lookouts, and these people's genes have adapted. A certain portion of them tend to be much more reliable in staying up and have less deleterious effects as well. So I'm not surprised that they found those findings with tribal people, because it confirms some of the ancestral stuff that we've been talking about in terms of, people standing guard. But I think when it comes to these genes, whether they can be silenced because of lifestyle changes or not, it's a real hard one. I've heard all sorts of, yes, they can. Other people saying, maybe they're a bit more hardwired. I don't know. We don't have any real information, but there's a lot of anecdotes out there from the tribal informational stuff that shows variations. So I tend to think that they may be more there may be more plasticity to the sleep cycle, and also it's possibly one reason why we're able to move between different time zones, different latitudes, where there's more light or less light, different parts of the year, and adapt very easily. It makes sense in that regard. But as I said, it's a hypothesis rather than something that I can say with definitiveness, Scotty. Sometimes you can only logically extrapolate certain things. Yes. That's very formal. Very formal. Birds, mice, and frogs' legs all sound edible. What Blinky Pooh's diet was. Ooh, she's on the. She's got your number, Blinky. Your toast. Frog and a toast. Make sure it's well done. Don't know whether I've got legs like that. Ooh, those are dangerous, fiery words. Oops. And we will go through the banter of these three people. Well, within reason, we classify them. G'day, Dave. Yes, we've got a bit of banter here going on with T1 and T2 and Necro Kitty. Yes. The boys have been very cheeky. Very cheeky. Soon. He likes self-harm, don't you know? Self-abuse as well, especially self-abuse. Have a safe drive. Uh that's a really hard one, actually. I've never I really can't answer that. I've heard a lot of different things, but I've never come across a study that actually looks at liver pate and whether, because there are different ways of actually doing liver pate, slightly variations and all that, but there are. I think anything that you process will have some loss. There's bound to be some loss. How much is hard to say. But it's probably a thing that you can actually do more often than regular liver as well. You could probably have pate nearly every day. Generally also, most bird-related, you wouldn't get much pate out of T2, but most bird-related pates, I would say they would definitely, chicken would have very low, one of the lowest in retinol, and I'm trying to think now. What else? Duck would probably have a bit more, and I would say geese would have about the same as ducks in terms of retinol. But on the K2, the MK4 front, actually, liver from birds has more MK4 than liver from ruminants. So as a source of, where you're not getting too much retinol, but at the same time you're getting shitloads of K2 compared to liver from, beef, lamb or whatever, you'll get far more from, in that regard. So, yes. So I would say pate liver would, in some respects, would be superior to other livers. So yeah, I enjoy it. I usually have liver pate nearly once a week. I actually go and get some, and usually have it with my mate on the Saturday. I just forgot this Saturday, but that was just an oversight on my part. But yes, but I don't have detailed, and I don't have a study to give you exactly what the composition, but I know that the MK4 is definitely going to be higher. But obviously, I would say fresh, even, would more likely, if you're looking at fresh to a processed, it's going to have slightly more nutrients. When you process, you'll lose something. But yeah. But how much, I don't know, Dave. Can't help you on that one. But, if you're eating liver pate a couple of times a week and you're getting a bit of liver now and then, I don't think you're going to be nutrient deficient. Far from it. You'll be fine. Little one, background noise like my haunted toilet. Valve off, tank full, haunted. Unsuffix coming from. Nah, it's since they actually changed that damn pipe in my next door neighbour, it seems to be a bit more noisier. Anyway, can't do much about it. It seems to actually, I may have to go out and adjust because the two connections connect me and him. So I may have to adjust the pressure, see whether that sorts it. Anyway, yes, you are. And Melina's from Poland. There are fiery words, Blinky. They're fiery words. Maybe you should have the poo label. They are fiery words. Yep. It actually sounds better. Blinky poo. Blinky poo, just sounds better. Oh, God, Blinky, you're in trouble now. God, she'll roast you. I wouldn't go down. I wouldn't be. One thing that I wouldn't do is travel to Texas. I do have some tickets for you for Texas if you're interested on a holiday. God. That's okay. You're welcome. I will put that link up, and yeah, but there are anything that comes from must be the dinosaurs must have had a very, because all birds and all sort of animals. For fuck's sake, Edward. God almighty. Can't he bloody open up the tap properly? So what was I going to say? Yeah, the dinosaurs must because all the birds are descended from dinosaurs, as you know. Hope you know. And yeah, T2, you're a dinosaur. I couldn't. Oh, sorry, Angela. I just couldn't. It's an opportunity to take a swipe at T2, the other troll in there. Yeah. So, and they must have had, because all birds, I mean, emus, an obvious other dinosaur, a descendant, has one of the highest amounts. I think ostrich is pretty close as well, of all the birds in terms of MK4 in their fat. So their fat is really high in MK4. But it's expensive. That's the only problem. So your better option is to go for some like goose liver pate and stuff like that, which is very high compared to other livers. And it's less retinol, so you can actually eat more and enjoy it. It's quite nice, actually. Yes. They're very beautiful women in Poland. Yep. You're welcome. Yeah, I will be. Yeah, look, a lot of the conventional stuff is nonsense. There's a big nexus. I mean, I can't remember who actually, whether it was Paul Mason. It may have been Paul Mason. He actually showed where bacteria were basically, how they were getting to the brain and all that. So it's really interesting, the sort of studies, But a lot of people just don't realize how many. I'm trying to remember how many bloody cells. There's brain cells in the gut, but is it 500? I can't even remember. Anyway, yeah. But it's it sort of connects the the vagus nerve connects these cells in the gut with your brain. That's when you feel, let's say when you don't feel really, you feel stressed or you don't feel really bad, you sort of feel it in your gut. Well, it's because they're connected. You know, if you cut off the vagus nerve, you literally sever that relationship. You can have bad thoughts and you won't have like things people say, butterflies in your stomach. You know, there's a connection. That's why you can, bad thoughts, being stressed and all that can really upset digestion as well. So, and also actually change the gut microbiome. Stress can change the gut microbiome as well. So it's not a good thing. Got to learn to stress manage. But also there are things that actually can lower cortisol and can regulate those things better to very important things that we get in our diet, vitamin D and also salt. So don't neglect to salt your food and get out in the sun. That's a bit low, 4.5. I get. Oh, so now you're blaming me. Oh, God. I'm a bad influence. God. He loves flies. Somebody needs to use a racket on this one. That's true. It definitely is. And this one's taking liberties. Correct. Very, very true. Very true. John, do you think that any issue with eating lots of fish concerning toxins? Fish a lot of lately. Fresh Norwegian cod is delicious. Fish is fine. What I would say is most microplastics that will be ingested in the gut. So you've got to clear out the gut. Unfortunately, you're losing some nutrition there because the gut tends to have good nutrition, but unfortunately, our waterways aren't what they used to be. But generally speaking, like us and like any other animal, we have liver and kidneys and all sorts of organs that detox. So the organs are not too bad. They're fine. It's only really the gut that there can be accumulation of some of this sort of stuff in the stomach and other parts of the gut. You will know if a fish shows it's got lesions, like there are quite clear marks of, that it's got sort of, when it's collagen, you see these lesions in the collagen where you see damage to the collagen of the actual surface of the fish. That's a giveaway that this fish has actually suffered some, let's say, an environment that isn't very healthy for it. I'd give that fish. That's the way of actually look at a fish from the outside. If the skin itself looks good, usually that'll tell you a lot about the inside. It's a bit like humans. If you've got really radiant, clean skin and all that, that really tells you that you're much better inside. So look at the actual, don't just, don't let them just grab and wrap it up and give it to you. Actually look at it and pick the one that you want and tell them to wrap that one up. So make sure that it looks good from the outside. That's how I would pick. That's another reason why not to get canned fish, because you don't know what you're buying. But on the other thing, mercury, not an issue. Remember, go and check that one that I did on mercury on my channel that shows the selenium levels play a big role in getting rid of all the heavy metals and stuff like that. So don't get too carried away with that. It's more the microplastics and some other toxins in the environment that may be affecting the fish. And the giveaway is the skin. Just to clarify that. T2 pate would be hairy. God, just the thought of that brings me out in goosebumps. God almighty. No love lost between those two trolls. God. Okay, nice. Yes, I do love the old liver pate myself. Oh, God. She's here. Oh, you're talking about the feathered one. Oh, God. Oh, I don't know where Feathered has gone. Is Adelaide still there? Texas cat steak. Oh, God. Oh, Powersaurus. He may take up that name. Powersaurus. God almighty. And Raptor. God. Go like the dodo. Yep. You're nasty. T1. Did something on lectins, migrating. Oh, that's exactly it. Precisely. Migrating up the vagus nerve to the brain. Yep. But also bacteria can as well. So, yes, it's quite interesting in that regard. Yeah, that's right. That was the lectins. Correct. Yes. Yeah, look, the body's so interconnected. And so that's why we've always said, keep it species appropriate. You'll be safer for it. The interesting in pork, pork organ meats, or does it have a similar profile to beef and lamb? Very similar. Yeah, most ruminants. Pork is sort of similar in a sense. There's not a lot of birds tend to be much more different. They tend to have less retinol and tend to have more MK4, where most the other land animals seem to have have good levels of the other fat soluble vitamins, but tend to have far more retinol. It's probably because they've got more surface skin, and that needs to. Yeah, I'm just looking at now the MK4 levels, pork, beef, very similar. Very similar. There's not much difference. I mean, for general meats, 13.6, 13.9 for beef, more or less, and the liver, 2.4, 2.8. It's where chicken meat is 101. It's nearly to the levels of the cheese, much higher. Considering that, and that's just a meat, not the liver of it doesn't have here, it only has meat. So the liver is even higher. The chicken liver is even higher than the actual meat, but it doesn't have that figure here. So I've still got the study open. That was useful. Yep. Yeah. Oh, pate's nice. Pate's really nice. You know what I do? I cut thin strips of Gouda and I lay pate on it. Or roll it in the pate and actually have it. And also, like on the Saturday, I get a really nice cured sort of meats, and the actual meat I cut into thin slices, and then you've got cheese, we've got brie, and we've got basically chicken pate. Sometimes goose liver pate if they've got goose liver. It depends. Sometimes they have, sometimes they have different variety of duck. Sometimes I've actually got duck from, but most of the time it's chicken, because if I go early in the week, I usually get the goose and the other stuff. If I go later in the week, it's mostly been bought up because I don't produce a lot. So I just have to remind myself to go earlier to get it. But, I sort of combine that with, and we just have it, like the sort of salami or some sort of cured meat, cut in circular pate, then some, because I cut all into sort of thin strips of the actual brie, stick that on top, whack. It's like basically, like people used to make your little type snacks where they used to stick things on, or things like that, made from flour products. The sort of clicks and stuff like that, where we're using the salami to stick all the animal products on and have it like that, which is really nice. So, you can make a tray of that sort of stuff and just literally have like hors d'oeuvres, but animal based, sort of approach. It's always better to do. There's always interesting ways of doing it. It just means that if you're going to get salami that is actually, or that which is rounded and hard, much firmer, more dense. So it's like a cracker, then it behaves like a cracker, and you can stick the other stuff on like you would with a cracker. That's what I was thinking. Just shows how long I haven't had a cracker with some, carbohydrate shit on it. But that's exactly what you can do. You can create meat crackers and just stick, some goose, some pate, some cheese on top, even thin slices on all that. You can make quite a few of those for your guests. So there are many different options, guys. You've got to be creative, thinking of how to present, how to combine certain things to provide nutrient density, family, friends, whatever, So, yes. Sounds racist, Harry. What's that? Oh, not sure what you mean, Blinky. What do you mean? I only discriminate against frogs and birds. I don't classify you guys as humans. Oh, that's sort of racism. And then I don't classify you as humans. Oh, okay. Fair point. The pot calling the kettle. The bigot calling the other bigot. Give us a break. Oh, you can't? Shit. What's wrong with the place? Gone to the dogs since the bald man turned up. Supplement transdermally is better with an oral. Transdermally is fine as well. If you want to use that method. There's liposomal if you've got a gut issue where you can't absorb it. There's many different ways. I just do a supplemental in this period. Normally I wouldn't. I would go to the tropics and get my vitamin D and be outdoors as much as possible. So that's normally how I get it. But this year I haven't been able to get away at all like the majority of us. So I've had to go for supplemental, and as much sun as I could get to keep my levels up to be protected against the virus. Yes, that's the only reason. So, but if you do supplements, obviously, make sure that it's basically the oil is not rancid oils. So look at MCT, look at palm oil, look at coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil, you know, from a higher quality supplement. But hopefully it won't be a regular thing. But in winter, I also used to get from cod liver oil, which I still do, but a high quality cod liver oils. You know, the Rosita one that from Norway that I have promoted quite a bit with you guys. That's probably the best one. What is the problem with eating raw pork? Is pork different from beef? There's nothing wrong with eating raw pork. I consume raw pork now and then, cured raw pork or smoked. But the only issue is what is it called, trypanosis or whatever, which is, you know, the potential for pathogens, you know, is the problem. But that's the potential for anything, you know. I mean, there's bacterial, there's microbial, there's also pathogens even that we get affected by vegetables. I think humans to a large extent have used that. But, you know, if you can get cured, I get a lot of cured pork foods. And if it's aged, I mean, aged meat as well. Let's say you got pork or you've got beef and it's aged for 21 days. So they hung for 21 days. So it's not fresh. It's hung and aged. In the temperatures, the cooler, the low temperature, salmonella and a number of these other things will die off. Simple as that. If in your region there is no trypanosome or any of these sort of worm type infestations, and you would have to check with your Department of Agriculture to find out which regions are clean of that sort of stuff, then it's probably no risk at all, you know. So if it's slightly aged, you should be safe from everything, you know. Then it's basically a personal preference and taste. So what would be the difference? Just the taste of, you know, I mean, well, beef has got more blood in it. It's more, you know, it's got that. In some respects, I would say that pork sort of tastes a bit more like chicken, but it's not chicken, obviously. It doesn't taste exactly like chicken. Then beef, it sort of seems to be further away in, but it also depends what pork. If the pork has been eating a lot of like bugs and stuff like that, more things in nature, it's more, it will actually be more darker. The skin, it will look more like the skin of a ruminant. Sorry, the meat will look more like that of a ruminant. I mean, the pork that I get has a redder color, where some of the other general, you know, grain-fed stuff that I see, you know, you look at it, it's much lighter. So the composition, it also depends on the species. There are differences between species of pork. So there's a number of factors when it comes to pork. But as long as you've covered the key issues with pork, you know, trypanosis, you know, certain things like that, you can guarantee the quality of the source. It's like anything, you know, if you can't guarantee the quality of the source, at least on the outside, You don't have to cook it all the way through. On the outside, basically, cook it in that regard. But if you can't guarantee the actual source and a number of other elements about it, and potentially there could be one of these sort of worm type pathogens in there, then cook it right through. So it really depends. I mean, your sourcing and stuff like that. I don't know what your sourcing is like in the Netherlands. So you'd have to basically, sort of look into some of that information. Whiteboard 80% reduced fat, traditional mayonnaise, traditional uses vegetable gum. Throw it out. Sunflower oil and long lists of other rubbish. Yeah. Look, we actually went through, because we usually buy from a Japanese place in Hobart, sort of, traditional mayonnaise. It's got nothing else, no crap, no seed oils, no nothing. And my mate wasn't able to find any because he forgot to go because it's through the week. And we were on the weekend and we said, because we'll go past the supermarket to pick up some other stuff. And because he needed mushrooms, he needed the gorgonzola cheese and a couple of things like that for the sauce on top of the meat. And we just took a look at the mayonnaise. We could not find one bloody mayonnaise without, some sort of seed oil, whether it was rapeseed oil, it had some oil in it, So, yeah, look, it had either soya-based oil, sunflower oil, those sort of things, rapeseed type canola. Yeah, I've noticed in recent times more soy oil in more things than in the past. So, yeah, I mean, it's rubbish. It's better to make your own, or if you can find a local supplier that you can get it from, so yeah, it's a bit of a hit and miss with those sort of things. Mayonnaise has gone to the dogs, unfortunately. It's not what it used to be. You could actually find, there was a couple of brands that used to have really proper mayonnaise without any crap or whatever, just made from eggs. And those brands no longer exist or went out of business a couple of years ago. So, yes, unfortunately. So we had to find somebody else. My mate did find somebody else, but that person was closed on the weekend. So that didn't happen. Best way to support the adrenals, Harry. Salt helps, brings down your stress levels. Mindful thinking, less stress, better eating, all these things, more selenium, more iodine, more of these things. So eggs, liver, meats, more salt, because remember, salt does bring down cortisol. They're all interconnected. Selenium also helps improve the thyroid function as well. Reduces reverse T3. So, yeah, good nutrition at the end plays a big role, and managing your stress as well. It's not complicated. There's a whole business behind, I know, but, it's usually the same. Ips. Yeah, basically. Plenty of rubbish out there, unfortunately. A few thousand years of grain eating leaves much impact on our genes. Some populations more than others. It depends, like the Chinese, where they've got a very high endogenous capacity to produce choline, 76%, which isn't really, they're the only people on the planet that have that level. That's a population that was on grains, had for a very long time with very low animal foods for a considerable time, and the body requires, it is essential, without choline, you can't produce, neurotransmitters, anybody heard about acetylcholine? So, yes. and exporting fat out of the liver. You need choline, so you don't get fatty liver. Good bile function, you need choline. So all these sort of things require, in that regard, one of your methylation pathways requires choline. So really important if you can't get in the diet, if you can produce it yourself. And so some populations have, it's primarily populations that have been pressured to be under grains for a very long time, that have got some of these adaptations, but it's not widespread, but 76% of the Han Chinese do have that variation. So yeah, look, it's had some impact. It's had some impact in height, in brain size, and all sorts of things. Some health issues that are more common now in our genetics than what they used to be in tribal societies. So it's had impacts, let's put it that way. Varied ones, made us more vulnerable, less robust. So yeah, not a good thing. Multiple generations, the old Pottinger's cat, multiple generations of doing things inappropriately will have consequences on the physiology of that animal. Yes, that is the reality, unfortunately. Recovery yogurt is like about 22 for me. Dairy makes me constipated, but eating it has made all the days I do not eat dairy come out kind of nice. So the Dietary yogurt has improved your poo, is what you're basically saying. Actually, my friend told me that yesterday, and I said, too much information, Sean. Do we really have to discuss this sort of question while we're eating? Fuck's sake. God, I know he's like a brother to me, but I mean, there are limits to these things. God almighty, I said. Ugh. You're a muppet. Everybody that I've actually spoken to, friends of mine that have been on it for some time now, they are all saying how great their gut is and all that. Remember, Dietary actually fights off the pathogens. So if you've got pathogenic bacteria in there causing you problems, like, let's say, SIBO, let's say issues like just general gut motility and stuff like that, proper functioning, candida, should I go on all the other nasty pathogens that can cause issues? Well, C. diff, these strains of L. reuteri fight all these nasties and seem to improve gut health in a number of people. They also allow some of the other beneficial, like the bifidobacteria, the rhamnosus, and some of the other strains to come back, to regrow, because the pathogens are being, let's say, kicked in the teeth and weakened. So it seems to be, I initially didn't think that it would have as positive effects, because I didn't start it until very later on, as you know, but I've noticed improvements. So, and I haven't even gone through the one dose. These guys have gone through 3 packs. So they've actually been doing it for some time now. Both my closest mates. But yes, my experimental animals. So, and so they're basically really happy with it. So all I can say is we've got an N of 2, potentially an N of 3 with me, and a number of other people that are telling me that they are seeing improvements. And it varies because people have different diets, different environments that they live in, different lifestyles. There's a lot of factors that at play as well. It's not only, one factor, but it seems to have improved for a number of people. So it's good. Also, it seems like the dickheads at let's say our dear friends at Standards Australia seem to be basically finalising their tick off on allowing into Australasia that strain, the Japanese strain, that actually is really good for the oral health, the oral microbiome. So basically, I'm looking forward to grabbing that as well. So, and so are my friends. So we're basically all, anticipating the approval process by our overlords in Australia. So we'll see what happens when that happens. Anyway, and bigger balls, yes. Dietary has been said to improve sperm ball size, and I know those other little deviants thought it did something else as well. Let's not forget. Thought it was closer. There it was. It's affected these two fellows in a big way. Say no more. Proof is in the pudding. God. Pull back, Harry. Pull back. Pull back. Yes. See, Angela. Yes. These, I know. Their vulgar language is scared off, Angela. You Sir Vulgaris. Have you heard whether MK4 can be converted from higher MKs made by bacteria? Any foods especially high in MK? Yeah, well, we covered that earlier, Anthony. Things like the liver of birds tends to be very high. Gouda, things like emu oil, but that's expensive. Things like brie, Gouda, in terms of cheeses. They're the main ones, really, or supplementation. A lot of the other metaquinones have varied conversion levels because at the end of the day, they do a number of similar things, but they all have to get converted to MK4. MK7 in a third of the population doesn't even get converted. So it eventually gets excreted. So it's next to useless, the natto stuff. That's what the commercial companies want to sell. It stays resident in your blood, which probably isn't a good thing because if it's not taken up, it could become a pro-oxidant. So all mammals or all animals in nature basically utilize MK4. That's the one. K1 is in the liver, and K1 is the one that gets converted to a number of things, but it primarily is, I think that's the one, the oral one, and I think that's the one. Yeah. So pretty much, liver is probably your best. Eggs is another one. So if you're getting some eggs in, some liver, if you don't have any real health issues, I would say, I wouldn't worry too much about it in that regard. Yeah, look, you can get also a DAO can actually also be upregulated by monounsaturated fats and saturated fats as well. So it's not, The fats play a big role in the production of it. Certain organs are very high in it, like kidneys, yes, in that regard. Histamine is only a problem when it's sort of out of, if you're not on a species appropriate diet, it gets out of whack, potentially. Look, I consume very high histamine foods, but my body can break it down quite effectively. So there are some genetics as well, but there's also a number of other, there's also bacteria. There's, a gut microbiome issue on the one hand as well. So it's a more complicated. I will be talking about in coming days and be giving a different view on histamine. If you were to go to zero histamine, you would die. Let me put it that way. So you do require histamine. I'll explain why you do require it, because otherwise you would be very unhealthy if you didn't have. So it's when it goes out of whack. It's like anything, when it goes out of whack, it can become a problem in that regard. So most people that have got histamine issues usually have leaky gut issues, usually have SIBO, usually have all sorts of malaise, malabsorption, and all sorts of problems. They blame it on histamine when histamine is not the bad player, it's just dysregulated, so yeah. But yes, those sort of organ meats can help, providing those enzymes, saturated fats, and monounsaturated fats can also increase the production, so the endogenous production. Yeah, but in general, I will be covering this point in much greater detail, and you guys will get a much more nuanced understanding of histamine. And when you hear the other crackpots on the internet saying how bad histamine is, you'll say, no, it's not. You'll say, as long as it's within a certain band, it's fine. It's actually very useful and very important for the health of the body. So, yes, you'll be able to put them right in that regard. Yes. It's, again, as I said, reductionism. All these people talking is about reductionism. They'll blame everything on histamines, and it could be other issues altogether. So you got to be careful with all that sort of side. Actually, I remembered something. You just reminded me. Give me a tiny sec. Get rid of all of that. Where did I put that? Did you, I can't remember now who actually asked me. Melina, did you ask me about tuberous sclerosis? Just put it in, I can't remember whether you asked me or not. I can't remember now. No idea. There's a lot of different ones. There's also some crossbreeds. There's a number of like boar and crossbreeds with wild pigs and boar. But the exact number of species of pigs, no idea. Just Google it, you'd find out. Different countries do have a number of. There are the spore. What do they call the brown type? They've got a blackish brown type skin. You find them a lot in Polynesia and a lot of places like that. So that's a one pig variety that is very pervasive through that parts of the world. You will find things like that. Anyway. Yes, exactly. You do. I know some people, when they make mayonnaise, some people use extra virgin olive oil, some people use palm oil, some people use coconut oil, some people actually use like clarified butter. Yeah. Yep, Harry, it was me asking about. Yep. Okay. Shortly. Just give me a sec. I just want to move further down before we get more questions. It's just because I know StreamYard's gonna really hammer me shortly and move forward, and just get everybody's comments. Harry opinion, compressor wraps. I had to suffer through vinegar, soaked socks, and other torture every time I got sick during childhood. Yeah, I've never used, so I can't really tell you about that. Most skin issues are related to the gut, and most skin issues I am going to be doing shortly, covering a lot of skin issues and the fat soluble vitamins. Remember, the collagen degrading enzymes that regulate, plus your microbiome on the skin as well, is another issue in itself. I'm trying to do some research of how to restore proper microbiome on the skin. I can't find a supplement anywhere, and the research is so mixed at the moment. So I'm still researching it. So once I've got some good information of helping people with skin conditions, I will provide that information. So, but you know me, I have to go down multiple rabbit holes until I can actually find, you know, the golden goose, so to speak. Yes. Okay, so yep, that's an option. A recipe there from Scotty. Oops. Help with dental health. Yep, yeah, it does. All that sort of stuff. You know, it helps a lot. So there's a whole, you go and check my videos, you'll get a lot of the information. I've already done the videos ad nauseum when it comes to that. So do check out. Yep, that's, I believe that one is it. My has the teeth strain in it, and chewable is more of a sucker, harder than the gastro chew. Mint flavor is strong, kind of wrecks the taste of the yogurt made with it. Okay, yeah. Look, I wish they had a plain version, but the reason is they make these so they can actually give them to kids as well, and they have to make them tasty for kids. That's the whole thing, because a lot of kids have a lot of issues nowadays with gut microbiome, with too many antibiotics and wrecked guts from a young age, and a whole lot of health problems. And that's where they're directing a lot of this sort of stuff, because adults tend to be completely switched off about the gut microbiome and stuff like that. But mothers, which have kids with problems with gut issues and stuff like that, they're more switched on, and are the ones that are the key ones that are buying these products, which is good, at least that some kids are getting some good strains back into their bodies. But as a consequence, a lot of these things are made for kids, in a sense, the way they're actually designed, you know, rather than actually creating a separate kids version. Yes, very annoying. But maybe they're doing that deliberately because it's making it harder for people to make, you know, kefirs, yogurts, and whatever else. Yes, possibly because they have a patent on it and don't want others to be able to utilize it or get it and not have to buy it from them. Major culture with pills, freezer. Bowbird starter is good. Oh God! No wonder you've scared him off. With all those insults. He's a sensitive bird. I'd say combined frog and frog legs in it as well. The trolled cycle. Wait, Dietary. I'm still excited about releasing weight loss Dietary soon. Yeah, they are in the process of bringing out the weight loss one as well, which is bacteria. That is. But, if you take a whole lot of acidophilus, it's not going to help. So you got to be careful with that. But the nice thing about it with the other strains, I suspect I will have that other strain, the 17938, I think it's called, which basically also helps in pushing away some of these other ones that make you fat. Anyway. So yep. Precisely. Soon, hopefully, if Standard Australia gets their fucking act together. And now we can go to Melina's question. Ta-da! Share the screen. Okay. This is from South Korea. And there's the link for that. Anybody wants to read it? Melina, you want to grab it? A copy of it? Okay. Is an autosomal dominant genetic disorder affecting multiple organs, including the brain, skin, lungs, kidney, amongst more comorbidities. TSC bone mineral disturbances remain relatively unrecognized, and a few studies have reported alterations in calcium homeostasis. Calcium homeostasis is a big one. Everybody else doesn't talk about it, but this sort of sclerosis, hypercalcemia, low calcium, or hyper, there's also, they do discuss further down, but hypercalcemia, too much, is a dysregulation of these collagen degrading enzymes. Fundamentally, this is the reason why they find that vitamin D plays a big role. You can actually get in soft tissue calcification. You can get in your scalp, like the skin. You can get calcifications. You can get these sort of layers of calcium under the skin that actually create these little growths of, in other conditions, growths of basically on the skin. So it is really fundamentally a lack of a deficiency in vitamin D. They've actually found quite clearly that there's a strong relationship between vitamin D deficiency. Now, there is another element. We'll go through this slightly. That's the sort of case study. Thyroid, parathyroid gland. There's questions of seizures and stuff like that can actually be affected. Obviously, when you're looking at the glands and stuff like that, you're actually thinking selenium, iodine, copper, zinc, these sort of things. Are you getting enough of these sort of things in your diet? Organ meats are a good source of providing for all these, MK4, retinol, your vitamin D. So that's the way I see it. When I look at the research, they also talk about all these genes. The reality is all the other genes are associational. They're all associational. Only this gene actually has, seems to show a strong relationship of this gene. 4 and 6.3, that's the polymorphism, because it's got 2 different alleles in that regard. That's your homozygous. And obviously it is a pathogenic one in that regard. But like multiple sclerosis, the word sclerosis means this sort of hardening, okay? And if you take a look at the literature, whenever I look in the literature on things like hardening, and that's the only one that's actually got, all the other ones are 0. So all the other ones are associational. They know they have some role, but Melina, they don't know exactly how to the level in that regard. Then there is like germline mutations, analysis of the TSC2 gene. Now looking at a number of patients here, and half of the mutations that are identified, small frame deletion, tandem duplication, not amenable to the mutation detection method. So they still don't fully understand. They know it actually runs in certain families, amongst 8 families, that there is certain types of genes that seem to express themselves in that regard. But a lot of this is associational, unfortunately. I'm trying to remember which is this study. That's the gene ones. So this goes through all the, so if you did a genetic test, you could use this one to look at all the different types to see which ones you've got, which ones are sort of dominant in there. And no, that's not the one. No, that was not. That's related to something else. Anyway, so basically you see this sort of hardening that actually takes place. They actually did with vitamin D and calcium supplementation, and they're able to show improvements. So, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't take a supplement of calcium. I would just basically, because a lot of the sort of poor, there's issues with calcium dysregulation, and I prefer basically, if you're going to get calcium, get it from the food, like more dairy, if you can handle it. If you can't, then at least get a calcium citrate or something like that along those lines. Don't get some of the other shit. That's your cheapest and probably safest calcium citrate. And obviously get the MK4 in there, the retinol, and for the fat-soluble vitamins. There's also issue with I would say probably salt would play a role in the homeostasis of some of the electrolyte imbalances that can emerge in this sort of condition. The problem is they talk about them, but they don't provide enough information. I've looked at some other studies and they were just shit, just one after another, just talking about the condition, saying, "Oh, we've got a," but really, we don't really know what's causing it. This is the only study that I came across, which is this Korean study, and it's been done in a hospital, and they've actually looked at somebody and worked out that vitamin D and calcium metabolism plays a big role in this. So when it comes to calcium metabolism, I'm not going to go right through the whole thing. Bone mineral density is affected by a lot of people with this condition. So there's a lot of, parathyroid condition. We know that vitamin D plays a big role in parathyroid. So, These are conditions of the thyroid which require the fat-soluble vitamins, in particular D3. So in that regard, you know, creatine, the calcium creatine ratio. So you need both good levels. So again, animal products. You know, so yeah, there's a lot of information in there, which, you know, obviously we can't cover all that in a question. I've provided you the information to go and look at it and get some understanding and start biohacking, you know, getting some of the fat soluble vitamins in, checking your vitamin D status. People that have this condition, I don't know whether it's you that has this condition or a family member or a child of yours, but you know, when it comes to this condition, obviously they need to check their vitamin D status. Really important, and sort out, you know, as you can see, again, you know, phosphorus plays a big role as well. Remember what I said about bone health and muscle health and all that? Not even calcium, because calcium, as long as you've got D3 to bring in the calcium, unless you've got some condition of this sort where you may need some additional because you have difficulty getting it in through the actual, you know, through the actual basically pathway, because they're actually in the gut. There are actually all these mineral proteins. And for some reason, these mineral proteins are affected, it seems. And also this condition seems to actually create conditions of deficiency, but they don't really understand what is really causing it. So you may need more vitamin D. So you've got to go and check with your doctor, find out what your vitamin D status is, and try and correct the vitamin D status. And if you do that, I suspect, yeah, God bless you as well, Melina. I suspect that will improve your condition. Yeah, we sort of, especially in Northern Europe, where you don't get enough vitamin D, you may be somebody that needs vitamin D all year round to correct this condition. Remember, I will do the study that actually shows intravenously, you know, how it all works with, you know, but the key things is sufficient protein, phosphorus, which comes from the protein of animal foods, plus salt, which is the only things that actually prevented the loss in bone, the loss in muscle. It's quite clear. That was locked in, medical ward. There's no way out. You're being intravenously fed these things. It's quite clear. That is gold-plated. You can take that to the bank. So we know that those are important. But also when it comes to the metabolism and the functioning of these things, obviously, you know, it is really important, D3. Yeah, most parathyroid issues that I come across are usually D3 issues. It could be because people have a kidney problem and are not converting well. There's a lot of different reasons, and that's when I basically look at a liposomal form or an active form. You know, different types where they can get it into the system. So it depends on your circumstances. Sometimes you have to investigate, check, find out, and once you've found out, then sort of come back to me and say, well, I know this, now what do I do? Or just email me, what do I do now? You know, so yeah. I hope that helped. I did notice you're really happy about that. You may have not been aware of that information. So, yep. In that regard. Okay. So, where was vegetable choice, nightmare. All vegetables are nightmares. Yeah, I know. It's yeah, I actually tried to do a yogurt with the actual stuff as well, and the taste was, I went, oh, do I really want to eat this? It just, yeah, it was really off-putting. Yeah, if I ever find a source where they've actually licensed it to another company and they have a clean source, I'll let you guys know, because I'll want to get it as well. Because I'm really, I would really hope that they had just a plain, probiotic that I could actually use, and use in a number of different ways. Yep, those damn hormones. T1 and T2 are very hormonal, especially nowadays. Vinegar soap, reducing fever. Oh, okay. Lots of superstitious folk remedies. Honey soaked inside radishes. Another, yeah. Oh, look, look. Probably some of the fermented stuff in those things are probably helping. Because remember, vinegars and stuff like that are acid loving. Actually, your skin needs to be slightly acidic. So the bacteria that would survive in a vinegar would probably be the same sort of similar bacteria that survive on an acidic skin. So I wouldn't say completely that they are superstitious bonkers. Their understanding maybe, but but I would say that your skin needs to be slightly acidic, and if it's not, it actually does harm itself. You actually get pathogenic bacteria growing on it. That's why we should wash ourselves with soap and not with a lot of these other chemicals in that regard. So, yeah. But as long as these vinegars are like fermented, like, they're with a mother, they don't have any other crap in them. They haven't been pasteurized. As long as they are real, yeah, probably not an issue. And honey, again, there are certain things that, is probably less of an issue as well. So, would love. Yep. Oops. Oh, StreamYard. Yeah. You need to. We all need to. We need to look out for acidophilus. Wherever you find it, don't buy the product. Even sometimes I've noticed that even in they will put acidophilus like pickled cucumbers or pickled stuff. They put acidophilus in it, which is really annoying. So if it's got acidophilus, give it a miss. For people that are on this channel that are doing sort of some plants here or there or keto-ish or whatever, just give those a miss, really. They're not your friend in terms of especially weight loss and satiety. And, they are just, way too. They just encourage overeating, which is the last thing any of us need in middle age or over. You will see improvements. Everybody that actually has literally damaged their gut for a very long time find a lot of improvements. And antibiotics and glyphosate, because remember I've said glyphosate is patented with the US Patent Office and a number of other patent offices around the world as an antibiotic. So it really wrecks your gut. So these help to restore. And some of the new videos that I'll be doing this month will also explain some of the other biohacks and things you can do to improve your gut microbiome and bring back the beneficial stuff. Going to be very interesting. You should, yes, I think you'll really like the new ones that I will be doing this month. Anyway, yeah, there'd be a few people close to me that would actually differ with the first part of the statement, but yeah, God bless and thank you. That's really kind of you. Mr. Animal. Yes, he is. Mousy, yes. Needs to be put in a cage. Yeah, I don't know what your situation is within the European Union. I know in Australia we've had problems trying to get some of these strains in. Yeah, let alone I tried to get this other damn thing that really helps with testosterone, and I can tell you, I found out it was classified as an aphrodisiac. It's actually a plant compound that helps improve testosterone in men and lower the estrogen in men, which is, really good. I wanted to experiment a bit, to sort of boost my testosterone levels in, and help me, build more muscle without having to do a lot of work for it. Yeah, I know we're all a bit lazy. Just another biohack. And unfortunately, our dear friends at Customs in Australia intercepted it and said, no, it can't come in. And I said, why? They actually called them. And the Border Force of Australia, we will not let it through. It's an aphrodisiac. And I said, and? I get a hard on top of that. Do you have a problem with that? I mean, our society's gone really bonkers. I mean, if it had negative effects, because I've looked at the compound, if it had negative effects to health, potentially a risk or whatever, I can understand. But you can't bring aphrodisiacs anymore in Australia unless they are for therapeutic purposes. So, like people who do Chinese medicine, they can get access because they've got a license to practice Chinese medicine. So you have to get it through them, which means you have to pay an arm and a leg for get the service and everything else, but you can't actually buy it from Amazon. This country has gone to the dogs, over regulated, over controlled on everything. It's giving me the shits. Very hard to get certain things. Very annoying, to say the least. Anyway, we will move on. They may be monitoring. Mr. Serpanos, you've been talking badly about our Nazi forces in Australia. We will basically quarantine you. And yes, so I better be careful. Nowadays, our freedoms are on a razor-thin ground, unfortunately. Yes, the actual word, that's the one that I was thinking, unfortunately. I must rest soon. If you must, you must. Yes. Yes, this character can be quite tiresome. Is that what you're saying? Is a carnival profit? I wouldn't go that far. I cannot afford to sleep. That's going a bit too far. You're welcome, Melina. Yeah, I'm just here to, I'll be running this channel, as I've run it for as long as people still want to come and listen to what I have to say. I'm on and off. Sometimes I do more content. Sometimes I can't because I've got other commitments. This is sort of, I do it for free, voluntary. I don't want money from anyone. I've got a day job. And when I've got the time, it's my bit to give back to the community, to give back to people, to help people. It's just simple as that. You won't see on this channel me promoting anything, selling any products or supplements or anything. I'll give you some information that other people that sell certain things that actually do work. But if they don't work, generally for most things, there are a couple of amino acids, like taurine in particular, which the biosynthesis declines. One thing that actually interests me is everybody thinks about taurine there are two things that I like about taurine. As you grow older, taurine can guarantee to be an amino transporter. So it's protective against sarcopenia and osteoporosis. On the one hand, it helps in that area. On the second front, it also helps with liver health. And on the third one, with brain health, it basically clears out beta amyloid, which basically means I won't become a demented old fool. So I think, there are certain things that are necessary to supplement. There are other things like niacin. Yeah, it sort of keeps CD38 under control, which increases with age and degrades NAD+, the capacity to create energy, to repair yourself. So if you can't repair yourself, a bit of a problem. So there's a whole lot of things, but obviously, a sort of a low deuterium diet, because if you're going to be repairing yourself and you want good redox potential and you don't want to overtax the system, you also have to have low deuterium foods. You can't be eating high deuterium foods that damage the machines and then overloading it with NAD, because it basically puts too much strain on the system. So it's a balance. It's a reason why as we degrade, our CD38 goes up. So we've got to do other things to slow down the aging and degradation in order to basically then maintain more youthful NAD. And when we do suppress CD38, we're not doing it in a way that could be harmful, So, yeah, it's all a matter of, biohacking these different elements and balancing them appropriately. So that's my focus anyway, and I hope you're here for the ride of how to fix your guts, how to balance, your hormones, how to do all these sort of things that will eventually end you up in better health in the long run, and at least you'll be able to live longer and a better life, which is, key thing. Anyway, does anyone know how Dear Placenta can be marketed as a supplement? No idea. Don't know. Absolutely don't know about it enough to be able to comment. It's from a different species, so would it work the same in a human? From a deer? No idea. Do you like that one? Yes, I think placenta from a child, from a baby or whatever, would make more sense, but that would be never ethically allowed. I think the only other option is you've got those supplements that BART cells that seem to have a beneficial effect in terms of adult stem cells. There's not many other options out there, but stem cells also can be increased through fasting, exercise. So there's a number of other things. Don't get me, it's not only the supplemental stuff. So there are other options, but deer placenta, do not know. How many birthings do deer have per year? No idea. Could we put pressure on them? Yes, don't know. It's probably not an option that I'm looking at taking up. Let me put it that way. There are better ways. Have you been drinking kefir or sorry. Hey Harry, I've been drinking kefir of cow and goat milk for 8 months plus now. There or 7 or more bacillus strains. I hope it will be good for me. I was concerned about MSG. I seem to be fine. Okay, good for you. Yeah. So, yes, probably the only one most of the actual kefir ones tend to be pretty good. There are some cases where they do put acidophilus in some preparations. If you're actually making them yourself from kefir seed, the sort of the spores or stuff like that, then it's probably fine, the types that you'll get. Anyway, Yep. Yeah. Look, there's benefits. There's benefits. There's a lot of studies about benefits of colostrum. It's what they call the first milk, and it's very high nutrition. Really important for babies. So it has a lot of benefits. You know, that would be half an hour conversation. I'll probably do something on milk products, colostrum and other things, and lactoferrin and stuff like that. I have taken lactoferrin before, so I will eventually at some point do a video on those, which will be more comprehensive. I'll be running. The troll will be unleashed. And did you realize that? What do you think? I'm erratic. I've got an erratic mind. What do you think I tell you that? Silly old fool. Is that what you're saying? What taurine on iHerb? There's the one that actually is the plain one. Oops, that popped out. Give me a sec. And let me just find it quickly. Damn. It's past 8 o'clock. Roy is here, mates. Roy is here. Okay. Let me find that one. That would have got T1 excited. Don't come out of the ear. Stay in, stay in. That's the basically unflavored. It's just pure amino acid, free form amino acid. It's got nothing else that is problematic in there. So and that's what you want, just a clean amino acid. A lot of the others do have they've got a number of crappy stuff in it, where this one is the one that I'm buying now, because the other one, that company there, have changed their formulation, and that is quite annoying. So I've been forced to buy this one. So I've still got some of the other one, and when I finish that, I've got another one in the cupboard, which is this one here, the new one, and I'll be using this. It's unflavored. It's just pure, 100%, pharmaceutical. No other crap whatsoever. And hold on. Here's the link. And so you've got the link there, Melina. So just use that. Depending on which part of where you are on the planet, when you click that, you'll actually get, like in Australia, AU, in New Zealand, NZ, in the UK.iherb. So yeah, so it depends on, I don't know what the European one is from depending on what your country is, you'll get the first part or whatever. If you don't have a designated one for your country, you'll get just that generic one, which means that your country, you'll have to check whether they actually post from the US in that regard. But usually you should get the UK one. I suspect you'll get the UK one and you won't have any problems. Anyway. Yeast. Nothing like a bit of taurine for us oldies over 50. When you get to 65 and over, it actually just drops. Yes. You know, you want to clear out that beta amyloid and remain undemented. Yes, it's got a lot of benefits, taurine. You know, getting clean, Rucheri yogurt is easy, just culture. Yep. Identical to placenta cells. Deer velvet contains biomolecules nearly identical to placenta cells. Using a deer provides some of the highest quality velvet extract. Yeah, look, honestly, you're an animal. I do not know enough about the actual product to really make a comment. Yeah, I haven't looked at research, so and it's not probably something that I'll be looking into at this stage. At some stage, I may look in the future. Just remind me, and I may do some research into it. But at this stage, I don't. Yeah, there's other options. And for most people, I suspect this may be on the pricey side as well. Is this the actual bacterial ones are we talking about? I'm not sure which ones we're talking about. Those ones are pretty much at room temperature, I think, the ones, but I actually put them in the fridge if we're talking about the Dietary ones. Yeah. Yep. I do stick them in the fridge. All my bacterial supplements go in the fridge. Simple as that. Yeah. It seems to preserve them longer. As long as the fridge is not, you know, not in the deep fridge, obviously, that will kill them. The temperature's too low. But if the temperature isn't that low, it's fine. A standard, you know, a couple of degrees, you know, yeah, bacteria will survive. If the temperature's too low, bacteria will not survive. So it depends. Yeah. Yep. Good for 2 years at room temperature. There you go. Yeah. So if you want to keep them longer, why bother, in a sense? My Roy glasses really excite Blinky. Restless leg syndrome. Really, there's a lot of things about electrolytes about it, things about nutrition. There's some information about the microbiome issue, that it could be related to it. Most of the cases, it is a deficiency, usually a mineral deficiency in most cases. But shoot me through. Give me a bit of a background information of what what you've checked and stuff like that, and I'd be able to give you a better answer in that regard. It's a bit like, like leg cramps. Some people think it's magnesium. Sometimes they're getting enough magnesium. It's just a lack of sodium. In most cases, it is too little sodium because everybody fears salt, even though people consumed about 10 times compared to today. So, yeah, it's sometimes there are some parts of the restless leg syndrome that actually can be psychological as well. Stress. So there's circadian rhythms issues. So there's a lot of different factors in that regard. But I'll tell you one thing, even though I've looked at it in general, I haven't researched it thoroughly to be able to really give you a sort of a top sort of notch position on it in that regard. Yeah, and I noticed further down, you're actually saying my mate is suffering from it. So what's his diet like? So what is he eating? Is he consuming crap? Is he basically... So, that's what I mean. It's really hard to know the sort of what could be causing this sort of stuff. The typical stuff that people usually say is when you've got these sort of things, they go, oh, it's a magnesium thing. It could be a potassium thing. It may be a sodium thing. It could be a number of other factors. If I don't know enough about the guy, or you don't know enough about the guy, or, you may have to get some details in that regard. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folk remedies. I think somebody, I think my mate, was it Sean? I can't remember now, said something about hemp oil helping certain people. I got no knowledge about whether that can help, but the only one that I actually know is, that I'm aware of is, magnesium or potassium or sodium deficiencies or electrolyte imbalance. That's the only thing that I do know for some of these things. Is it twitchy? Sometimes people can actually have restless, but also some misfiring of nerves or stuff like that. That could be a sodium thing or a potassium thing. If you don't really get much of that, it's just, a disturbance. It's probably a magnesium thing if it's a disturbance. Can it be exacerbated by a number of things? Yes. Dietary. Is he eating too many carbohydrates? Can exacerbate this condition. Insulin seems to cause this imbalance in the homeostasis. Look, unless I know enough about the guy, it's really hard. Find out some details about him. What is he eating? What's his diet? What's his lifestyle? What sort of tests has he done? It's you sort of really need more details, because it can be a number of these electrolyte, but even non-electrolyte stuff as well. Primarily it is electrolyte stuff, but it's not necessarily just that. Sometimes just taking, going out and getting a whole pack of electrolytes, taking a number of doses, so you've balanced out, your magnesium, potassium, sodium, and all that, so you don't go really out of whack, and you take quite a bit of that for a short period of time, and it resolves it. It's an electrolyte issue. But there could be other factors as well. There could be insulin resistance causing electrolyte or mineral imbalances generally. Yeah, these things are really hard to pin down unless you know enough about the person. Yeah. The classical stuff that everybody will say, it's a magnesium or potassium. That's what most people will say. But it could also be sodium. It could be a whole lot of other things as well. So, yeah, that's a hard one. Because a lot of these sort of things like twitching, type pains all over. See, pains all over can be like a fibromyalgia sort of, but it also could be a B vitamin deficiency or too much B vitamins, or it's these things sometimes it takes a while to sort of investigate properly to find out where you are, what your vitamin status, mineral status, a number of these things are, and trial and error a bit to work out. I hope that helps. Try the electrolyte. Tell them to try the electrolyte option as a beginner. If that works, fine. It's sorted. But if it doesn't, then it may be a bit more complicated. There could be other factors in there. Anyway, just popped in here to say hello, Harry. G'day, Serge. Good to see you. I've sent you an email about Contagion Myth book. It's a must-read for everyone. Open mind. Yeah, anyway, I'll take a look at it when I get a chance. Thanks. Appreciate it. Yep, that's the one. We'll move on. Yeah, with some of these things, it's just a bit like that. Terra, fridge, mine, fucked by the batch. I still, okay, allergic grains, fed, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about that in the past. Her thiamine may be implicated in restless leg, lactic acid buildup. Yeah, can be. Actually, too much thiamine can actually exacerbate it. So, too little or too much, it can go either way. So, yeah, most of the case it's electrolytes, but it can be a number of other things like a thiamine. Riboflavin is slightly implicated as well in associational data, as is thiamine in associational data. We don't have any clinical stuff. So, yeah, it's that sort of stuff currently. So, yes, we do not know. I just lost my spot. Oh, wonderful. You're welcome. Good. Yeah, look, don't, unless you really need something specifically, it's fine, but we can sometimes go overboard on supplementation when organ meats are the cheapest source for a lot of these things. So organ meats, eggs are the cheapest source. So we don't need to basically be forking out a lot of money. I usually say to people, if you can't afford as much to buy supplements, organ meats, what's wrong with organ meats? It's the best multivitamin out there. Multi-mineral vitamin, vitamin, it's basically, you can't get a better type of combination of foods. So get organ meats into you. Simple as that. And you remember the Greek kukuretsi type thing, where they combine all the different organs with their intestine and all that. Make something like that. That was the thing. That is nasty and crude. Something to be expected. At least he's keeping up to his reputation as an effective troll. Sour. Why would it be a problem? Sour milk shouldn't be a problem with sour milk. unless you don't like the taste of sourness. I don't mind it. Yep. You're welcome. Yep. Ruined batches. What do you think humans have so many diseases besides the wrong diet? I believe USA has registered 13,000 diseases. Diseases have been part of our viruses and diseases and bacteria and all that have been part of the human and all sorts of types of organisms have been part of our existence since we've existed as all species. Most animals in nature are riddled with pathogens. So it's nothing new. It's the reason why in nature there's high infant mortality. It's like the reason why most animals in nature sort of, hump each other quite profusely to keep up the numbers, because there are losses in reproduction. So, this is the reason why our so-called average life expectancy looks worse the further back we go. Not because there weren't people living longer. There were plenty of people living longer and were much more robust, like the North American Plain Indians, as an example, that used to mount horses in their 70s and 80s and go to war. So if that's not robustness, I don't know what is. Most today's people who are medicated probably can live just as long, but are highly medicated to be kept alive with blood thinners and all sorts of things so they don't clot up. So, but the reality is that when you're in, a more natural environment, you are at the mercy of a lot of things. So, yes. So I would say for most animals, including humans, being in a more natural environment would have been more prone to those conditions. So as tribal people, moving around, they would have been basically coming into contact with all sorts of pathogens in the environment. We live in cities now, most of us anyway, that come into contact with far less. So, but at the same time, when it comes to, let's say viruses, we'll just take that as an example. There are absolutely millions and millions of viruses that get into us every day. Okay, we interact with things around us, we're getting viruses constantly. The overwhelming majority of those will never harm us. Not because we've got a robust body, it's because they've got no receptor to exploit. So not every virus can exploit the ACE2 receptor on the cell to get in. And so since they don't have the capacity, and these may come from another animal like a dog or a cat or whatever animal, they don't have the same sort of receptors. They may over time, at some point in the distant future, take material from another virus in our bodies and become quite pathogenic. That is always the potential risk. And then, yes, we could have another issue. But generally speaking, most diseases in the human body are kept under check by a strong immune system. And most issues are not an issue. It's only when basically we become very sick from poor diets, or these bacteria or viruses are pathogenic and have ways of undermining our immune system in order to get a foothold and proliferate. That's when they become a problem. And they only achieve that in many cases when our immune systems are quite weak because of poor diet. So there's, one plays on the other in a sense in that regard. But there are bacteria. You can have the best immune system. There are bacteria and viruses that can overwhelm us, whether we're the most healthiest as. So It's a complex. It's not a terrain. It's not those two theories, competing theories, are one of about everything's dangerous, virus type thing. It's a complicated picture. Nature just full of little critters. There's actually little organisms. I'm trying to remember what their names are. There's these little organisms, these little proteins, and what they do is they break down viruses. And so let's say these organisms didn't exist. The whole planet would be overrun with viruses. The whole planet would be overrun with a lot of organisms that would actually kill off larger species. But because these degrading proteins exist in our environment, they cause us no harm. They're inside us. They break down these viruses. I forget what they're bloody called. They exist in the oceans everywhere. They came from the oceans, basically, as animals moved onto the land. The earlier forms are still in the ocean. And I can't remember the damn name for the life of me. Anyway, and they basically keep these things under control. So, yeah, look, that's the natural environment, that exists. It's the way it's been created, So, just what it is. Oh, it is. I'll try and look at for some other source, Melina, and I will put a link. Once this video is finished, because it'll get late. But tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll do a bit of a search and see whether I can find another source for you, like on Amazon, but something which is clean and proper, nothing crappy. And I'll put a link, and then just come back in the similar time to now. Come back and check, and you should find a pinned link with the information. You're welcome, mate. More about that, more about poo. Blinky, you're obsessed about poo. Yes, instant poo with him. More about this, more about these. More about the yogurts. Okay. Different ways people do things. Yes, exactly. Organ meats are definitely nature's multivitamin. It's the thing, remember that lady that had MS? And I would say to Melina as well, B vitamins are very important. And organ meats, because remember she had multiple sclerosis. All the sclerosis type things are very similar. And they require B and D vitamins. B vitamins, I'll be doing something eventually. And I'll explain the importance of them and how to take them and how not to, and how they can be problem if taken wrong, in the wrong way. You probably remember me doing some stuff a while back with Bart, so there will be something relating to that, but it will be far more nuanced than what it is currently. So yes, they definitely are, and they are a good source of the sort of nutrition that people need, because that's how Terry Walsh, who had multiple sclerosis, that doctor, she ate a lot of organ meats, so she was quite deficient in a lot of things. One of the best ways of actually fixing a lot of deficiencies is organ meats. Simple as that. Yes. And there are a number of ways you can cook them and all that, and find very interesting recipes. Only back now, probably Miss Lots, can Dietary be cultured with kefir grains? Yep. At room temperature, yep. Irish winter about, yep, can be. Not an issue. Double cream. I love cream. Oh, look, if you Google, you'll find about, like you can actually, if you Google all the Indian chiefs, it'll actually give you a whole list of all the Indian chiefs, and it will actually give you their age and all that. Some of them were in their 70s, 80s, or 90s. Remember, a lot of these people died from, transmittable diseases because there were no antibiotics in those days. You got a little snip, you got sepsis, you were dead. You got some sort of virus, especially from people from a Westerner environment, and you were dead, like TB or something like that. Many of the European and Asiatic diseases. So they were much more vulnerable. But the ones that were actually robust and all that lived into old age, very healthy and still very strong in that regard. So if you Google, you will find these. If you Google Indian chiefs of the plain Indians, because they're the ones, and you'll get all their names and how old they lived and stuff like that. And yeah, quite interesting. Yep. Yeah, look, I love eating smoked bacon, raw smoked bacon, cured in salt. Really nice. Very much enjoy it. Yes. Yep. Nothing like cream. Yes. Nothing like a sanitizer, Cornell, to damage somebody's skin microbiome. Pork fat, Lord, is expensive over here. Is it? Really? Oh, I use raw butter and tallow. Oh, well, if that's... Eastern Europe tends, like Greece, Eastern Europe, Balkans, all those sort of areas tend to have much more pork traditionally. So it tends to be cheaper in that regard. I know the guy that Laszlo Boris, who's the guy that actually does all the deuterium research and stuff like that from Hungary. He loves pork, raw pork, smoked. He will just, he's very much like me, loves that stuff. Yeah, it's unfortunate, that's the problem in some parts. There's no way of actually getting, are there any specialty shops that, are sort of bringing in stuff from Eastern Europe? Maybe check with the communities. If you've got any Eastern European communities, they may have some specialty shops, and they be bringing stuff in from Hungary, Poland, or any of these countries at a relatively, good price, for the local people that are immigrants to parts of Western Europe working there and want access to some of these foods. So that's another option. I've always said, go to some of the stores of different ethnic communities, and sometimes you'll find certain foods that you may not find in your own stores. So that's always an option. All love between you guys. Good to see. Oops. Oh, where was I? Yep. That was StreamYard again. Just decided to go its own way. Okay, with grains, double cream. Yep. It's comment. More comments. Take off your organs. Or radical. No, let's not. Remember, Cornell, this is a nutritional site. We don't talk about any politics or try to keep it down to a minimal. Yes. Yes. And I'm the prime bigot. But we will not talk about that. Yes. I do have to say I do discriminate heavily against T1 and T2. Although I think we may have upset T1. I think we may have upset T2, and he's done a runner. You're a bad boy. There's raw frozen lard. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Comment. Cornell. Now we're going sexual, aren't we? Somebody control that man. See what meat does to some men. Just yes. Well, the nurse likes the comment. Yep, say no more. I think the ladies know their organs. Oh God, here we go. Yes, I think Angela, those boys are thinking about different cream altogether. Their mind has gone into the gutter and beyond. What do you mean they're not working? I'm cool. What's wrong with you, Blinky? I should ban him just for a joke. like Luke earlier. What did he do? Wasn't it? I remember Luke was accidentally hit all the buttons. Oh, I accidentally deleted Blinky. I wouldn't do that to you, Blinky. Luke would, but I wouldn't. Yep. Yeah, look, I've been meaning to go through some of the actual genetic SNPs, mine and others, but it's going to be next year because my list has grown substantially, and there's a whole lot of other things that have got a priority over this sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, when you eat properly, you get good nutrition, all that, you usually fix up a lot of the transcription issues, a bit like the MTHFR. Take more riboflavin, which means eat more dairy and meat, and it fixes a problem. So you don't really have to. Don't have to supplement to biohack it. Just eat the proper ancestral foods. It's simple as that. Is that per kilo, Melina? The pricing for it? Yeah, exactly. That's the yeah. Just try those sort of stores, and they will have that stuff. Yep. At least Melina's giving you some pricing for that, so you can actually do a bit of a comparison. Blinky, I wouldn't want it any other way. It's still relatively low. It's still relatively low. The difference between it is, while pastured will be about 100 and anywhere between 114 to 115, and grain fed would probably be around about the 117 to 120. So it's not too far. Remember, tallow is actually 124. Sorry, 122. And butter is 124. So remember, the body still depletes a certain level of deuterium anyway. It's when you overload it too much, which becomes a problem. So even at those levels, it's still below 130. Averages out to around about that level when you actually eat meat with fat. And then you've got the natural depletion from UV or naturally from the body itself. So it usually comes down even closer to the hundreds or whatever. Problem is, when you eat a lot of carbohydrates and all that, it ends up being over the 130 and making it very difficult for the body to clear out the deuterium. So some get through and damage some of the electron chains. That's where the problem lies. So it's when the system gets too much and can't handle it. A few here or there doesn't make much of a difference in that regard. So between the two, there isn't a considerable difference. So there is less to worry about. There are other issues, and those other issues are your gut microbiome not being challenged because of glyphosate, because they're eating grains which are full of glyphosate. But if you're in another part of the world where they don't use glyphosate on grains and the grains are glyphosate free, then it's not going to be a problem. No, not an issue. And the amount of variation between even the PUFA side of things is not that big. I actually showed that in the stuff that I've shown, let alone it's not an issue anyway, but within animal tissue, but it's less of a problem in that regard. So I wouldn't worry, Alan. People have been feeding pigs all sorts of crap for a long time, and they did quite well. It's only when we brought the industrial seed oils and all the other crap that things went to hell in a handbasket, refined shit and all that. The protein part, around about 140 odd it is. So if you don't eat enough fat, a 1-to-1, and you consume far too much, you'll probably get far more deuterium. You won't get the levels of sugar, which is in much higher levels than that, but it's still higher, and it depends on how lean the meat is. The leaner the meat, the higher the deuterium. The more fattier the meat is, the less deuterium. So that's how it comes. So that's why I usually say a 1-to-1 ratio of meat to protein. Sorry, of meat to fat. Oops. Or protein to fat. God almighty. Yeah, it's getting late, so I'm losing it a bit. Thanks, mate. See, that's the sort of remark you should be making, Blinky. Thanks, mate. Well, don't usually do that with males, but thank you. Exactly. Don't be a bigot. Hey, when it comes to Blinky, it's a requirement. I'll sort Luke out later. Any week now, I will get my 23andMe test. Good for you. More of you guys are doing genetic tests, I noticed. So I'll probably have to start trying to do even small little fillers here or there just to basically give you some information in that regard. I may do something next week, actually. Just give you some places where you can go and upload your data and get some information, and some of the other stuff that these free sites don't provide, the analysis, but you can actually still, I'll give you a list of things to look for. Yep. Nah. It's like fluoride. Your body still needs some fluoride. It still needs a number of these trace minerals and stuff like that. It's not a big problem unless it gets too much, So, so water fluoridation is probably a bigger problem. And it's one reason why I do not consume, like when I'm in the office, I try to minimize the amount of water that I put in, and I try to get it really steamy hot and then put the milk in, and then, so I tend to put a bit more milk and make it more milky, so I have to put more coffee in to make it, and that's just basically because, there's no filtration. You get what you get at the office. So, like a lot of things. But currently, I'm transitioning to come back to working from home for a couple of days. So, not right now, next year. I haven't put my form in yet, but I will, because at least I can control my environment. I can't control the work environment when it comes to exposures. And it's just, the blue light is just, it's beyond a joke. I'm not kidding you. They've refurbished and they've put in all these new, really bright, absolutely, you're literally pounded with blue light all day. So, not happy. Beer is beer is one letter away from beef. Will that make a difference in Dietary? Should I answer that? If you need an answer for that, there's something wrong with your blinky. It's sugar. So there's bound to be in beer, at least around about the 150 something mark. What do you think? Yes. Oops, what was that? Polymelicina. I think recommends 2/3 fat and 1 protein for therapeutic effects. Yeah, for therapeutic effects, yes. But for general health and all that, because you still need, for general health, yeah, I go for 1 for women, 1.1 to 0.8. So more fat for women and less. And it's because women have got more fat storage, and they also require more fat for their hormones. Simple as that. So women should be consuming more fat than men and less protein. Simple as that. Yep. See ya, Alex. Oops. Where am I? Yeah, they do. They do. Look, they are dealing with a lot of people who have got leaky gut. They've got a lot of issues. And I know where they're coming from. I think it's misdirected when it comes to dairy. And commercial dairy, yes. I can agree with commercial dairy. Yeah. Like, commercial dairy has a lot of acidophilus, which is a problem. It makes dairy more addictive. When you look at the sort of approach in other parts of Europe, it's much cleaner. But when you're looking at the English-speaking country, in particular Australia, New Zealand, UK, the US, Canada, there tends to be far too much of this shenanigans when it comes to the food supply, which is the biggest problem. Yeah, but dairy isn't a problem. Raw dairy is actually really good, nutritious. So, yeah, I've never subscribed to that nonsense. Can people be sensitive to it? Yep. But, I usually say to people, well, show me the evidence. It's all associational stuff. Every single study that bags dairy out is associational. And then when you look at some of the longest living people in Europe, they're big dairy consumers. So when I do have my chat with that lady that's on that Greek in Greece, we'll be able to talk about some of these longevity populations and their dairy culture. So you'll understand what I mean. That's why I don't subscribe to that sort of stuff, because it just doesn't fit the observations. When we look at these longevity populations, Sardinians, Greeks, it's the pastoral people that are eating dairy and meat that live the longest. So how can it just doesn't compute? You could say the same thing. You could take a meat, process it heavily, throw shitloads of seed oil and sugar on it and all that, denature it in many different ways, and then present it and say, oh, meat's bad for you. But is it the meat or all the processing that's actually happened to it? So, yeah, I think it's brushing, treating everything in the same way is a bit, too generalizing in that regard. Anyway, yes, I was for a while there. You're welcome. I've been lurking this morning. Yeah. So I will, it's pretty much a bit after 9 now. So definitely looking at winding it up. So it's not a leaky gut factor. Leaky gut factor is a whole lot of other reasons that actually cause it. And then all proteins, can be an issue, and other factors. Because there's certain enzymes and certain other factors in milk that can get through and can be a bit more reactive. But that's because you've got a condition that you've stuffed up from a bad diet, carbohydrates and sugars and all that, and then you can't blame the dairy or the eggs or stuff like that for, that you've run down your system in some regards. That's why we go to a clean carnivore diet. We go to organs and meat and keep it very clean and simple. But even some people react to red meat. There are some people that have basically have had certain ticks or stuff like that that have put proteins in that are mimicking red meat and can create problems for these people as well. So they have to have an adjusted diet of certain white meats and stuff like that. There's a lot of variations, and this overgeneralization can be dangerous when it goes for the whole population. For specific people that have got conditions, yep, I can understand that. But then to generalize from there, that's just nonsense, in my book anyway. If I had some of the conditions that they are dealing with, those sort of people, I'd probably give up dairy for a while and certain other things. And once I fixed my situation, then go back to it. Yes, apparently, it seems likely. Oh, lucky I'm wearing sunglasses. Oh, God. Anyway, we're at the bottom, and I'm going to pull the pin and call it a night. Anyway, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Take care. And I will see you lovely people next week. And in a fortnight's time, the Eurasian people, and that will be on the next Eurasian one will be, let me just remind myself of the date. It will be the 20th. So the 20th of December, there'll be the next Eurasian one on a fortnightly basis. So the standard live stream will be next week, obviously, the 13th. And the next Eurasian one will be on the 20th. And the one after that will be on the 3rd, which will be in the new year. So I will see you lovely people on the 20th for the Eurasian and for the standard stream next week. So take care. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. God bless all of yous, and hope to see yous back, soon. And expect a few little vids through the week. Anyway, see you guys. Good night or good day, wherever you are.